Hi, Trevor. Thank you so much for submitting your writing piece this week and for making a lot of revisions to it. I was really excited to see the big change in your writing just from last week to this week, and I was really excited with all of the effort you put into making those revisions. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And also thank you for commenting back last week. It was really helpful for me to hear from you about what you think you have been doing an awesome job with in your writing and what you would like some support with. So I found a few resources this week to try to give you some support in thinking about what will be needed to write at the college level as you enter college next year. And that's definitely something I'll be thinking about, and I'll continue to be looking for resources in the next few weeks as you continue to submit your writing to see how else I can support you with thinking about just the transition from high school writing to writing at the college level. So the first thing that I wanted to say is I definitely think that your topic sentence where you state your argument for this piece was very clear, and I think you did a nice job of taking out the informal language. One small suggestion I have is for you actually don't need, in my opinion, at the beginning of this sentence. You can just state basketball is exceptional compared to baseball. The reader will know that that is your opinion because they will know you are the author and you stated it, so they will make the connection. It's your opinion, so that's not something you have to keep in there. You can just go ahead and state your argument without a phrase such as "in my opinion." Um, Scrolling down a little bit, I really liked how in your first example you did an awesome job of making the connection for the reader between why a sport that is more contact oriented and involves more stamina is one that would be more fun than a sport that does not involve as much contact or stamina. I think that you just adding the two sentences about a contact sport being more amusing because the player is more involved, and then also the health benefits of participating in a sport that requires more stamina really help to bridge the connection for a reader who might not understand why a sport with more contact or more stamina equals more fun. So I thought that further explanation really developed your example here, and you did a nice job of doing that. One suggestion I had for that part is to possibly use some transitional words or phrases at the very beginning of each of your examples. So before your example about basketball being a contact sport and involving more stamina, a transitional word or phrase before your example about location, and a transitional word or phrase before your example about time. And what these transitional words or phrases do is they help the reader to know that you're beginning to move into giving an example or a new example, and it kind of indicates a slight shift in what you're talking about in your argumentative piece. So I found a website that has some examples of these, and it's a great resource to look through and see what transitional phrases or words can be used in writing in different situations so that you can think about which ones would work depending on your purpose for writing each time. So I put the link in my comment, but I also wanted to show you. This is the website, and if you scroll down, it has some transitional words or phrases for if you're telling events that happen in a certain sequence. Also transitional words or phrases for that have to do with the time when something happened. transitional words or phrases for when you're comparing and contrasting, and then transitional words or phrases when you're giving examples. I think this section would be especially great to look at for your argumentative piece this week in considering what phrases or words you could use at the beginning of each of your examples. There's also a few for cause and effect, place. Concession is also a good section to look at for when you're looking for transitional words or phrases to use in argumentative writing, because these are words or phrases you might use before giving a counter argument. So, for example, sometimes in argumentative writing, writers will provide an argument for the side they are arguing against in order to try to take it apart and explain why that argument is not as strong as it appears in order to further support the side they are arguing for. So that is something we can definitely continue to talk about because that is a certain organizational technique writers often use in argumentative writing. So I would definitely check this website out and think about which ones you would like to try to include before each of your examples in your writing. And one other thing that I included this week was something called the Stop and Dare model for argumentative writing. This is a way to organize your planning and the actual writing of an argumentative piece. And I thought it might be something helpful for you to take a look at so you can see what you're already doing in your argumentative piece and what else you can try as you think about writing in this genre right now, and also something you can use to plan and write in the argumentative genre if you were asked to write an argument for a paper or a writing piece in college. So with this model, the STOP is an acronym, and each of the letters stand for something you can do as you begin to plan an argumentative piece. So first, it asks you to suspend judgment by listing reasons for both sides of an issue. So when you're considering what side you want to argue for, you may already have an idea in your head, but it's still a good idea to actually go ahead and list reasons, do some research, because sometimes you might end up being persuaded to argue for the other side if you aren't already set on one side of the issue. The second letter in this acronym is T. Take a side by deciding which side has the strongest support. This is a nice thing that you've already done in your writing piece with you've definitely done a good job deciding, taking a strong side and not kind of going back and forth between whether basketball or baseball is better in your opinion. It's very clear, the voice you have throughout this writing piece, it makes it very clear what your opinion is on this issue, and it helps the argument you're making for basketball being a better sport than baseball even stronger. The O stands for organized ideas for their chosen side by numbering how they will appear in the compositions. So it's definitely important to think about once you have your evidence and you've planned it out, what makes sense to place first, second, and so on. Do you want what you feel your strongest piece of evidence to be towards the end, so that's the last thing the reader really reflects on? Do you think it would be more effective towards the beginning? So that's definitely something to consider as you're planning. And then always plan more as you write. So one thing that's really great about writing is that you don't necessarily have to plan and then write and never go back to the planning stage. Writers continually will begin to write, and then they'll think of something that they want to develop more, or something they didn't consider when they were mostly in the planning stage, and they'll go back to the planning stage, think about how they can work something new into their writing, and then go back and forth between planning and writing. The DARE model is something you can think about as you actually begin to write an argumentative piece, developing your topic sentence, which you did definitely from last week to this week, adding supporting details, reject at least one argument for the other side. So that's when, like we were talking about a little earlier, before you give an argument that a group might give in support of the side you're arguing against, and then you go ahead and explain why that is not as strong of an argument as people might think. Finally, you can end with a conclusion that wraps it up tight. And I think you did a really nice job this week of restating your main point. I think that's definitely important at the end of an argumentative piece, to just remind the reader, after going into detail with all your examples, of what you are arguing for, and ending it in a strong way where you say basketball is superior to baseball. So please let me know if you have any questions. Now that you know how to comment, definitely feel free to comment about anything I had to say in the comments. If you have any questions or you need any other supports as you continue to edit this piece, please feel free to ask questions or let me know. And I hope that you enjoy continuing to revise this piece. I'm really, really excited with the revisions that you made from last week to this week, and I can't wait to read it again next week as you continue to edit and revise. So I hope you have a great week, and thanks. Bye.